Hello, everyone. My name is Emer O'Neill. I hope you can all see me. The light's not amazing in here, unfortunately. And I'm reaching out to you all the way from Cork today. I've literally just driven from Wicklow down here. I'm on the Today Show tomorrow. With Dottie. So that's filmed in Cork. So that's why I'm here. I'm in the what is it? The Hotel Lee or something Lee. Lee Hotel, something like that. But anyway, I'm delighted to be here. Some amazing speakers so far today, and such a brilliant event. And a big thank you to everybody involved that has made this happen. And obviously, Lorraine, for the Trojan work you are doing and continue to do and have been doing for so long. I appreciate it. And thank you for giving me this platform. So today, I just really wanted to just have a chat about where I was and where I've come to and in between. So I only started my activist journey a year ago, actually. And the reason being was that I personally wasn't exactly the most confident in sharing about my Black heritage. I also didn't know enough about it to be able to talk about it, but I knew that I was experiencing like discrimination and racism, and have been even before I was even born, in terms of, you know, my mum had contemplated putting me up for adoption, and they told her at the adoption agency that the chances were I wouldn't be adopted. So I like to explain it, not like to, but I kind of have no choice. But basically, my life started out in a world that didn't want me. Was in a place that I wasn't welcome, and you know, my life generally from there on has had amazing things happen to me within my life. I've gone to America and played basketball in America on a scholarship. I played basketball for Ireland. You know, I have great family and friends, and, you know, but there's this other aspect to life that has always been there. And I call it the rucksack on my back. I always describe it as I was growing up just like everybody else in my town in Bray in Wicklow, except as a teenager, going through all the things that you do go through anyway, I also was carrying this massive bag of bricks on my back as well, which was racism, which was discrimination, which was feeling different and feeling ostracized. And I think once I saw what happened with George Floyd and the response to that, I felt like a lot of people were pointing fingers, and it was a real, racism is an American thing. People over there need to sort out their things. And, you know, there's a lot of finger pointing. I always say, like, when you point at someone or something, you've got three fingers pointing right back at you. And the way I felt about that was, in Ireland, racism is so problematic, but not something that we talk about. And it's not something that I had ever talked about. As a 35-year-old woman, it just wasn't something that I spoke about. I had learned very early from a young age, you know, that people really didn't want to hear it. And that responses generally were things like, you know, get over it, bit of crack, Irish humor, you know, we all have our crosses to bear. So a lot of gaslighting, which I didn't even know was a thing. But as I've gotten into my activist work, I realized, you know, I'm not alone in this at all. In fact, so many Black Irish people have started speaking out after the murder of George Floyd. And I didn't realize what a massive community I had of other mixed race people, which was so amazing, because growing up in Bray, like, I went to a school of 800 girls and I was the only person in the whole school of color. So I was quite used to that. And I never really had an outlet or another group of people that I could talk to and they could understand that kind of limbo that we find ourselves in when we're mixed race, because we're not Black, we're not white, but we're somewhere in the middle. And sometimes that can really have a huge detrimental effect on our mental state and our self-confidence, body confidence, everything really. But it has been an amazing journey from when I started. And the first thing I ever did was make a video. I made a video in response to the murder of George Floyd, and I just talked a little bit about things that had happened to me in Ireland as a child. The use of the N-word, you know, that has like lost all meaning to me because it's been used so much towards me. And also just, you know, the fact that you don't see yourself represented anywhere. Like, I know we're a predominantly white country. My mum is white. It's not a white versus Black or a mixed versus anything. It's about awareness, and it's about putting the shoe on the other foot for a change, and just imagining what it might be like to be somebody that doesn't see themselves represented all the time. And it's not that it's possible. It's not possible. It's not that it's not possible. It's very much so possible, because there are extremely talented and gifted Black, Irish, mixed race, and people from minority backgrounds, and people in Ireland all over the place. It's just that you will notice a lot of time it's always the same faces, and it's generally quite whitewashed. Like I tried for years to do modeling and acting, and I've always gotten to like a certain point, and that was it, you know. So I'm a teacher, and I've been teaching for 12 years. But in the background, I'd always do my acting in, you know, musicals and on stage and singing and on dancing and all that kind of stuff. But I always got the same response when I tried to further that career, and that was just that you're not exactly what we're looking for. Look, you know. And it was always the same answer. But doing the work that I did a lot of different videos about what it was like growing up and ways that I felt things needed to change. And I was spotted by a producer from RTE, and they reached out to me and they asked me to audition for Homeschool Hub, which I did, and they liked me and they took me on, and I started my role with them. And I've been presenting with RTE, you know, since last September, which is just mind-boggling. My daughter was about a month old, I think, when I started doing it. And the first time I'd ever spoken out in public was she was 10 days old. So I had a lot going on in my own personal life, and I wasn't sure if it was the right time for me. I wanted to mind myself as well, you know, because sometimes people say, well, why don't more people speak out? It's a burden. It's a lot to take on board, and it's not for everyone. You have to be ready to be kind of dragged through some crap along the way. Unfortunately, it doesn't come without its negativities or negative sides or effects. And as a result, even for me, because I did start speaking out, and I was on radio stations, and I, you know, was doing social media takeovers on quite large accounts that the followers wouldn't necessarily be extremely diverse. So I was speaking to a lot of the time crowds of people that wouldn't necessarily know a lot of what I'm talking about or understand it or know that it's actually happening in Ireland. And so sometimes it can be hard to break those barriers. But I found it's so important. I don't like to repeat my story and just keep telling my story, because it's mine. It is mine. But I'm okay to share it when it's in terms of trying to educate. And sometimes before we can make the next steps for change in our country, especially, you have to help other people to actually realize the problem first. And that's kind of what I've worked on for the last year, as well as doing little bits that I could to try and make change along the way. One of the biggest responses that I would get in terms of feedback is that people had no idea there was so much racism in Ireland, and were absolutely flabbergasted at some of the experiences that I have had to go through and still go through. Some of you may know me and know already, but when I did start speaking out, I was harassed really badly, and my name was graffitied. My full name was graffitied in my town in probably like 10 different locations. Graffiti with my name in my estate. My house was egged. My neighbour got acid thrown on their car. Sergeant came to us and just explained that it was probably meant for us, because it was along with a stream of other kind of harassment that had been occurring, but that they'd probably just got in the wrong house. So, you know, we now have cameras. And I get a lot of people say, why'd you keep doing it? Because obviously, you know, it's tough. But I do it for my kids. I do it for my son. My son is half Jamaican, a quarter Irish, and a quarter Nigerian. And my daughter is Irish with a quarter of Nigerian. And I do it for them. I don't want them to have to live the same life that I did. I don't want them to feel different every room that they walk into. I don't want them to have to constantly answer a question of where they're from. This is their home, and they're Irish, and I want them to be able to be proud of that and not to be challenged on that fact. I want them to love themselves. I want my son to love his afro hair, to love his beautiful skin. And what I did notice was that he was asking questions and doing things that I myself at his age did to my mum. And that's when it really triggered me that even though I might be trying to do all the right things in my home, it's the outside world that has such a massive effect, really. His peers, what he sees in the media, everything where there's representation, even if it's just his school books or cartoons or TV shows, whatever it is. It really made me realize that the lack of representation in all of those aspects is so harmful for our kids, and we might not even notice it. And I mean, even if you don't have mixed race kids or black kids, or you're not from a minority group, it's still damaging your kids nonetheless, because we need to educate all of our Irish children about different cultures, empathy, understanding, and to not see barriers as a bad thing, not to see differences as barriers, but to see difference as a beautiful thing, something that is exciting and new and that they want to investigate, or that they may feel empathy and understanding towards certain groups instead of hate or anger. And that, in general, I think when we start with our kids and we work up, that's where we got to start. So I started doing anti-racism workshops, and I've been doing them all over the country, but via Zoom. So I've been staying in my little old home in Bray, but I've reached, I'd say, over 1,000 people now with me just doing, via Zoom, 2 classrooms, or to multiple kids' homes. I've even done anti-racism workshops with organizations, like they've reached out to say, look, we want to educate our staff. Would you come and talk about your experiences growing up and some of the ways that our staff can help in the workplace and wherever else, And I always say the same thing. You've got to start at home. You start in your own home. Before you go wagging fingers and telling people off, you start in your own home. You recognize your own unconscious bias, because I promise you it's there. Unfortunately, it's there. And when you see it and you realize it, you will see it in so many other places. You'll never not be able to see it again. And that's a good thing, because you're woke now. You're aware. You've educated yourself. And also your privilege. And I don't mean privilege in terms of like wealth or that you've had a good life or anything like that. I just mean as far as when you walk into a room that you're not judged by the color of your skin, that the color of your skin has not affected your ability to get a job or a raise or have friends or have relationships, and that's what we mean by privilege. And when you start with that journey in your own home, so you as a person, you look around your home, even to that extent, like what kind of reading material do you have? Are you educating yourself outside? Are you interested in other cultures? What kind of music do you listen to when you're watching TV? Do you have people from minority backgrounds that are the main character in a movie, or everybody in the movie perhaps is? And are you showing your kids the same thing, that, when you think of somebody from a minority background, it doesn't automatically connect with poverty or uneducated, not being educated, or maybe not working, leeching off the government, all these kind of negative connotations that can be dripped down. And instead, what you're doing is you're showing your children that we're actually all the exact same. And in every group, you will have different types of people. And that stereotyping is actually really harmful. And that you would help them also to grow to see people just humans and not color. So yes, like even with myself, like the toys that my son was playing with, and I'm just used to not having. I didn't have toys that were like, I didn't have a Barbie that had brown skin. I didn't have a Barbie that had an afro. So I didn't even think about it for my own kids. But so for me, I too am learning. I'm not a preacher that knows all. In fact, I'm learning every day, and I'm trying to better myself and try and help myself to be able to make some kind of changes and to understand better, because I know my own experience, but everyone's experience is so different. And then once you've looked at your own home and realized all of these things, these realizations, and made those changes that you need to, then you start reaching out, and you think about work, and you go to your job and you ask, do we have an anti-racism policy here in the company by chance? You go to your kid's school, you say, do you have an anti-racism policy in school? Because you better believe they have a policy for everything under the sun. I know this because I've written policies in my job. But one thing you won't see is an anti-racism policy. And I always wonder why, and how can that be? Because how can you tell somebody that they have done something wrong when there isn't actually a clearly laid out policy in place? That's another thing that I've been working on with one of my, I started the Bray for Love group. It's my Black Lives Matter group. We've done a lot of work in Bray because of the graffiti and because there was a lot of harassment going on. We really tried to make a stand, and we actually got a beautiful mural painted by Holly Pereira in response to the graffiti. And it has, it's Bray for Love, and it has lovely, beautiful, different colors of loads of different people with different types of hair and everything. And it's just so nice and so positive. We also got stickers made up, and we went around to, I literally walked to every business in Bray and asked, will you put this sticker in your window, Bray for Love? He said, well, why? I said, well, what we're trying to do is we're trying to spread love and not hate. And we're trying to ensure that when people come to our town, that they see a sticker in the window that says thus, and specifically racism, and know that Bray as a town and as a community will not tolerate that it's zero tolerance for, racist, misogynist, homophobic behavior, period. And so many, there was maybe a handful, maybe 3 or 4 companies that didn't put it in the window, and it was literally because the manager wasn't there. But to see that solidarity, to see that people were not afraid to make that statement, because if I'm getting my name graffitied everywhere, the next person to put that sticker up, they're taking a chance that maybe their shop window could be smashed, they could get graffitied, they might lose business, but they didn't care. And that just showed the strength and the actual majority, what I would say, of the people in my town, but I think in Ireland. I don't think the majority of people in Ireland have that hate in their heart, but I do think there's a lot of a lack of education and understanding. And unless you have a person of color or mixed race person in your friend group, how can you know these things? Again, it is up to you to educate yourself to understand these things. And I think that's so important. And if you're not afraid to use your voice, because I hear a lot of the time, I'm just a white Irish man, Emer, where's my place in this fight? I don't feel maybe comfortable to just start speaking about it or calling people out. And I said, dude, if you don't do it, it won't get done. Where a majority of us are white here in Ireland, and if those of you don't speak up and share things on social media and show, not just inside you know that you're not racist, but you're actually proactively anti-racist. If you don't do that, then we're going to hear silence, because everybody needs to get together to do it. In terms of, it doesn't matter where you're from, it doesn't matter your background. If you care about humans and the world, then you're doing it for that reason, and you have just as much right to speak about it as I do. I think, with the work that went on in Bray, it definitely, for me, it gave me strength, because I realized how many people actually supported me, even though I felt at a certain period of time that I was very alone, and it was a very tough time for me, even mentally. And with my confidence, and just, I just kind of wanted to curl up in a ball some days. But I was bombarded with messages from people saying, you keep going, right? The people that write these things and say these hurtful words and use online things as ways of hurting people, they're the minority. And we, as the majority, need to be louder. And I love that. And it's what's given me the fire and the strength to keep on going. My daughter's 1 now, my son's about to be 7, and it's been an amazing experience, but it's been tough on our family. Like I said earlier, I'm here in Cork now. I'm going to be on the Today Show tomorrow with Dahi on Monday and Tuesday, and that opportunity only came to me because I started speaking out about the lack of diversity, and that I was not afraid to speak about it. And it got me an opportunity to work on Homeschool Hub, where I also was able to talk to the primary school level kids. One, they were able to finally see a person of color on TV. And 2, I had the position where I was able to talk about, Black people and mixed race people in sport, in education, in technology, in business, people that nobody talks about. And also to do a video that explained what racism is in a child-friendly way, because if you notice, a lot of our material is extremely American, either that, or it's too much. I have 6-year-olds and I want to show them a video, but I don't necessarily want them learning about lynching. And there might be too much of that content in some of the stuff, just too heavy. So for me, that was a mic drop moment, to be able to have been able to, on a national station, speak to the children of Ireland about racism and what it was like for me when I was growing up in school and people didn't want to hold my hand, and I knew in the art why. So me and the girl who had, psoriasis or eczema on her hands, wouldn't hold her hand, wouldn't hold my hand. So with my skin being brown, I was like diseased, and just saying it. But then I challenged them to feel what that might have been like, and challenged them to think, if you saw that happen now, what would you do? Or if that was you and you were in little Emer's shoes, how would you have felt? How would that have made you feel? I got a lot of responses from parents saying that it was such a great conversation starter. So after they watch the video, just sit down and with their kids and say, like, how did that make you feel? And and they're getting responses like, if I knew Emer back then, I would have held her hand, or that's really mean. I know that's really mean, and it would have made her feel really bad. And I think that's really important for kids to get that. Like, you can't teach empathy. A child and an individual, they have to find that for themselves on their own life journey. But by talking to them about things like that, ultimately they will find that sense of empathy and understanding for others. But I've gotten a lot of really positive things from it, from my work. The INTO, which is a primary school organization, reached out to me, and they said they were making a module for primary school teachers, a prevention, like how to prevent racism in the classroom or in the school, and how to address it should it occur. And I was just so glad to be part of it, because what I noticed too is when you see programs like that being made, if you notice, there's never a person of color involved in making these things, which is just mind-boggling to me. Like, I had the chance to talk to Leo Radker, like when he was the Taoiseach, like a year ago, about racism and what's going on in the country. And there was the equality and integration minister there, David Staunton, I think his name. And I just said to him, can I ask you, in that sector, do you have any people of color working for you? And he responded and said no. So in the equality and integration section of the government, there were no people of color with background of understanding what that's like, and understanding the things that need doing, and the issues and areas that are weak in this country. And that's just that mentality to get thinking, because it's people like that should be in positions to be able to help develop programs and to make those changes. The people that have actually gone through it, that live through it every day. I think that's so important. And it's just about that just bit of diversity. I think too, with the module, again, what it does is it asks teachers to sit back and just think about their own unconscious bias, and to have a look at their classroom and how they manage their classroom, how they engage with their children, the content that they're using for the curriculum. Do they study books where the poet is a person from a minority background? Are the children getting access to people from other cultures coming in to visit the school, and obviously via Zoom maybe now? But how multicultural are you being as a teacher? Because that's in your control. And then how multicultural is your school? Are you doing it that 1 month when it's Black History Month, or are you living it? Is it like within the veins of the school, the environment, the culture of the school? And that's where people need to really take a step back and analyze that and see, are they doing that? As simple as handing out a worksheet to kids where every kid, let's say the cartoon at the bottom, every kid is white. Why not have a child in a wheelchair? So we're representing people of all abilities. People of different religious backgrounds, sexual orientations, all of that. It's about inclusivity, ultimately. That is what is so huge for me, and the work that I want to do. And I think the area within the country that really needs a lot of attention, yet we don't have funding, we don't have resources. So it's people like me and you and Lorraine and all the organisers of this, and even people attending. It falls on us to do this groundwork voluntarily. And that's okay, because it's for the betterment of our country and for the world, and for our kids, And it's important work. It's things that need to be said, no longer push under, the table and just move on with it. These issues need to be acknowledged and found and fixed, which brings me to iReport. And so the IR, they created that back in 2013. I had never heard of it until like a couple of months ago, as I'm sure some of you that are watching will say the same thing. What's iReport? So iReport is an app that you can download on your phone, or you can go onto their website, but you can report any kind of incidents that you see. So if you see racist graffiti, if you hear hate speech, you're on a bus and you hear a guy just annihilating somebody because of where they're from, go back to your own country, all that kind of stuff. You can upload videos, you can upload pictures, you can put a detailed account of what happened, and you can do it anonymously as well, for those that want to have a voice, but not necessarily publicly. But it's really the first time in Ireland that we're being able to generate trends where we can see the types of violent hate crimes that are occurring, what percentage of them are physical, what percentage of them are online abuse, and where are they happening, and what is the institutional response to it? Because that's ultimately what we need, is where is the change happening, right? So we know it's happening, but where is the change happening and who's doing it? We all have ethnic diversity officers. There will be one in your area. If you don't know who that is, find out who that is. Contact that officer when you see things that you know are wrong, and don't be a bystander. It's one of the things we teach our kids all the time. Anti-bullying, don't be a bystander. You're as bad as the bully when you're a bystander. And the idea that people think, well, I'm just one voice, what can I do? One voice is all it takes. And you keep going, even in the face of adversity, because if in this world people were hit by a barrier or by hate or, any kind of opposition, and they had stopped their plight and just backed away, we'd be living in a very different world today. It's about that. Yes, you might lose friends. You might have awkward and uncomfortable conversations, even family. And I think I've had a lot of people tell me, I've had to leave WhatsApp groups. Emer, you want to see some stuff that's being written, or like at the dinner table with family members, having to call out a family member for using a racial slur that you would think is a no-brainer. But that's the work. That's the groundwork. That's what we need to be doing. And I love hearing those stories, not because of the terrible things that are happening, but the responses to them. Because if everybody starts doing that and being proactive, I think we can make huge amount of change. So if you don't have iReport on your phone, I want you to download it now. iReport, download it. You see things, upload it. We need it, because once we can generate these statistics and we can show clear, reference to issues, something has to be done about it. Like you see within it, within the report, that the report of racial assaults and incidents are the same, if not higher, as previous years. And I wondered to myself, how is that even possible when we've been on lockdown for like an entire year? And people, leaving work, having to leave jobs, having to move home. Within that report, it said that I think there was like 10% or something of the incidents reported involved like either some kind of attack to the face or head area or resulted in hospitalization. And I think that's raw. I don't ever remember being able to read statistics like that before, and I think it's really important for us, and it's amazing that we have them. But it's, again, because there's no money involved, we don't have funding for things like this. We, as the people of Ireland, have to do this. We have to generate those trends by sharing things like iReport, and everybody within your circle to download it and just get reporting. I loved that that Olympic Ireland really stepped up their game. I was approached by them and I was asked if I'd help them write a program, Dare to Believe. And it's all about equality and respect and like the fundamentals and the foundation for success. And basically this program it's being rolled out and they send Olympians to schools. Well, right now it's via Zoom. But to talk to them about their Olympic journey, how they got where they got, because every athlete and any Olympian has a story to tell. That you didn't wake up one night and be an Olympian. So it's amazing for kids to hear these things. But a part of that is the equality and respect, which does really talk about and gives kids the language, like, like what is actually racism, what is discrimination, what are microaggressions, what is gaslighting, just so they are getting that education, that understanding, and that vocabulary, and to be able to spot it. Because when you hear somebody say, "Oh, stop, like, it was just a joke," now a kid can turn around and say, you are not acknowledging the incident that has occurred to this person of color that has been detrimental to them and has greatly affected them, and now instead you're putting it back on them, so they have the weight of the incident and the aftermath, and also are being made feel maybe that they're not worthy to be able to have feelings about what has happened, nor should they have help or understanding. And I think that's why programs like this are huge. And a part of their Dare to Believe program, you can go on to Olympic Ireland. You don't even need to go there. You can just go to Dare to Believe to download or to contact them, to get them to come out to school. So if you have kids, I'm sure organizations too, there's a primary and a secondary program. But they also, Olympic Ireland, did the hashtag Don't Scroll By campaign, which again, I was like, it's amazing, like, way to get on board, because if you look at it, the different organizations, sporting organizations in Ireland, have been very quiet. And I have to say, I've got huge respect for Olympic Ireland for taking that stand. And basically with their stand, they've said it's a call to action to the people of Ireland, the public, and sports stakeholders to be proactively anti-racist. If you see things online, because a lot of this is happening online, and it can be very detrimental to people's mental health and just their own self-care and well-being, but that you don't see it and scroll by, that you stop, you delete it, or you comment, or you get that person banned, and reach out to the person that negative, message has been sent to let them know that they're not alone. And that's one simple part that we can all play. Hashtag Don't Scroll By. And I think it's really, really important. And again, it's one of those things to share. I do see that there has been some ripple effect since Olympic Ireland have done that, but I'd like to see it at a bigger scale, that other large organizations would be like, that's a great idea. We're going to either do the exact same thing as you or something else, so that they're publicly showing that they have zero tolerance for hate speech and derogatory language. And I think it's fabulous. And I'm really happy that they've gotten on board with that. But again, it's like, rally, come on, other people, other organizations. The more and the bigger you are, the more impact you're going to make. So I suppose, the Yellow Flag program is another great one. Just throwing that out there. And they've been doing it for years, but it's great. They again come to the school, and resources and workshops and education on how to deal with racism in schools. I started on an anti-racism policy a long time ago. It's taken a lot, because we don't have anything of the kind in Ireland at the moment. So I've been trying to generate that anti-racism policy from policies from the States and policies from the UK, and make it Irish. And ultimately, my group, Bray for Love, what we want to do is we want schools we were going to just send it to every school in the country, but we actually want schools to reach out to us so that we can keep track of how many schools have taken on board an anti-racism policy and have adapted it to make it their own, or just kept it the exact same, but implemented it into their school day-to-day life. And I think it's really important, because where the word racism should be used, it should be. Not bullying, not arguments or horseplay or whatever. The word racism needs to be used when there is hate speech involved or derogatory language, and it's so important. So again, if there's anybody out there too interested, because I believe that policy, once we're finished it, it's nearly done. But I think it's something that can be used throughout. So like in different kids clubs, associations, all that, but also in the workplace as a document to be able to work off, and huge words changes really, just to make it an organization and not a secondary school. But it's really important. And if you're thinking of how can I help, how can I go, what can I do? These are the things, this is the way. I want to just finish on a more positive note. What am I saying? Everything I've said for the most part has been extremely positive, I think, because I think it shows how much work is going on behind the scenes. And I do believe that there will be change, and we need to continue until we're heard in every aspect of the word. But what I wanted to talk to you before I sign off is just, obviously I'm a PE teacher. So I want to make sure that we're all taking care of ourselves, that we're getting out for walks, that we're trying to stay as active as we can. I know it's hard, but like, kids need to be getting 60 minutes of activity every day. And I think we have kind of lost sight of that. I know I have. It's like, I'm working from home, my husband's working from home, you've got 2 kids. Like, you lose sight of it, but all you can do is your best. But it's very easy to just stay at home and stay in. I'm a home bird. And for me, I feel like I've been training for this COVID lockdown like my whole life. I'm like, this is totally grand. I love it. I get to stay home all the time. Don't have to make excuses why I can't make something because I'm not allowed, but I'm the type of person that I will have to force myself, though. I say, no, go on out and walk around, even just do a loop or something like that. So I'm challenging you to try and get out for a walk. Might be a bit late today, but maybe tomorrow, and try and make a regular thing of it. I never liked walking because I'm an athlete. And for me, if you're not sweating, I'm kind of like, what's the point in it? But COVID, the positive thing that it's given me is a love for walking and a love for nature and the outdoors. I walked the Sugarloaf there on Saturday. I did it for my Darkness into Light because I'm breastfeeding and at the moment, and I'm up at every other silly o'clock hour. So I said, I can't do that. I can't do a 4 o'clock rise, but I will do something. And on my route up, I thought about my own mental health. I thought about my mental health in the past, where I've come, what I've done to get there, and how am I feeling. I thought about people who have lost their lives. Along my journey this year, I met a beautiful woman called Emer O'Neill, and she allowed me into what happened to her daughter, Mia O'Neill, and I'll never forget it. As she spoke to me about her daughter, Mia O'Neill, I forever was just thinking of so many feelings that I had when I was her age. And she was really, really badly racially abused online and also in person, and finally at the age of 16 took her life. And thus Coco's Law, the law against bullying online, also Coco, it's named after her, another beautiful young girl that took her life due to online abuse. But we now have some kind of legislation that finally people will be held accountable for their actions. Now, I've gotten off a bit there, but I'm talking about just when I was walking the mountain and just acknowledging, mental health and thinking about what we as a country need to do to improve our mental health system, how we can help others to take away the stigma of that mental health issues have. Because people are afraid to ask for help, and you shouldn't. You shouldn't ever be afraid, because I bet you the person standing next to you every day at work or wherever you are, rubbing shoulders with, probably suffered or does suffer from depression at some point in their life, or possibly was medicated. So it's so important that we take that kind of negative stigma away and realize that people that go to ask for help and do counseling and do work to try and better themselves, to be healthier, like, they need a round of applause as opposed to a smart remark or to feel ashamed. It's more power to you for taking care of yourself. And at the end of the day, we've only got one body, lads, and if we don't take care of it, there's absolutely nobody else that's going to. So get out for your walk, try and stay in a good place. I do a lot of 7-11 breathing if I start getting anxious or feeling anxiety. So I do an in for 7, and then I do an out for 11. And I just continue that until I feel my heart rate go back down and my body temperature, and just me in general just feel like myself again. And sometimes it helps me too to get to sleep. And I think it's a great skill, even for kids too. But, I just hope that everybody is getting through it out there. I hope you've enjoyed the day, and thank you for listening to me natter on for the last 40 minutes. If anybody wants to reach out to me, my arms are always open and my ear is always there. Instagram is probably the best way to get a hold of me. It's Emer O'Neill 14 on Instagram. But do please reach out if you're interested in the workshop or knowing more about Yellow Flag Program or the iReport app or anything else you want to chat, or the anti-racism policy, if you have a place that you think could really do with something like that. Like, once it's completed, I have no problem sharing. Yes, wish me luck, guys. Tomorrow I'm going to be on RTE1 at 3:30. I'm presenting with Dahi, like literally just me and Dahi. So woo, I'm excited. That's what I've been told. Don't ever say you're nervous, say you're excited. So I'm excited. I'm really, really excited. So tune in anyway tomorrow if you have any time free. And well done again, guys, for this absolutely amazing Irish Roots Festival. And a massive 80th happy birthday, Jude, my man. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Jude. Happy birthday to you. Thanks, guys. Have a great day. Slán. Slán.
Thank you for tuning in to Irish Roots. Irish Roots is a completely volunteer-led festival. If you can donate, please do. For more information and to see what else is happening, jump over to our website. It's www.iamirish.org. From all of us at I Am Irish, Gurav Mila Mahagut.